Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and today I'm going to talk about NECA's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fred Wolf series, Zack and Smash. Now, this two-pack for me personally is a mix of exciting and okay. I know this is gonna this is gonna ruffle some feathers here, but I know I'm in the minority here. But I have to be honest, I can't fake who I am. I'm really excited about Smash, but when it comes to Zack, I've just always been, he's okay, I grew up watching Return of the Shredder, like over and over and over again. So Smash and the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang are like absolute favorite Fred Wolf moments for me, like I love that episode. And Zack, I don't know, I kind of think of him more as like the Ninja Turtles Junior Ghostbusters, like he just didn't really do much for me when I was a kid. Like he does some cool stuff in the episodes, especially Night of the Rogues. But I always felt like he was Fred Wolf's way of trying way too hard to like appeal to me as a kid. Like he's not as annoying as the Junior Ghostbusters. Like I absolutely hate those kids. But he's still kind of like, I don't know, the kid that they were hoping we would imagine we were. And as a kid, I imagined that, I pretended that I was one of the Ninja Turtles. I didn't want to be Zack. Like, if you were playing with your buddies, right, and you had 5 people there and 4 of them already picked the 4 Ninja Turtles, you'd be like, well, I'm super badass kill dude, and I wear a brown bandana, I'm the Ninja Turtle that they didn't know about. I fight with an axe and a machine gun. Nobody wanted to be Zack. Zack was like, the person you'd make your little brother be, You'd be like, you're Zack, you're not big enough to be a regular Ninja Turtle. You're that little kid dude. But as I said, I know I'm in the minority, and I know a lot of people like Zack. I know a lot of people were asking NECA for years to make a Zack action figure. So, I think it's exciting that everybody got Zack. I think this line wouldn't be complete without him, but I just have to be honest that, as a kid, he was not like one of my favorite characters. Having said that, I still think that the action figure looks, fantastic. I think all the accessories included with Zack are amazing. Like he's got some pretty awesome things here. Not to mention an extra chrome dome head with an open. You can open up the top of it to to role play your Night of the Rogues display or whatever. So I'm happy to, like I said, I'm happy to get him, but I just have to put that out there that he, to me, is not one of the characters I was like, oh man, I really need him. And I'm sure that I'm going to be pleasantly delighted with everything included in here. So let's get started here, all right? Zack and Smash come packaged in this, Turtle Van inspired box. You got the green on the top and the yellow on the bottom, just like every other 2-packs in this line. This box is, actually pretty small compared to some of the other 2-packs I've talked about recently. Like Toka and Razar, they had a huge box, but this one's pretty small. That's actually one of my favorite things about this whole toy line is just the diverse shapes, like there's lots of big guys, there's lots of small guys, it's not all uniform and boring. There's lots of exciting things happening with, all these characters on your shelf. The front here has this huge window, so you can get a good look at the guys inside. Plus, you can see a lot of those awesome accessories that are also included. On the bottom here, the illustrations look great. They are uncredited, so I don't know who drew them, but they look nice. I should like cut these out and keep like a stack of them, but I'm already collecting way too much stuff. I don't need to start another collection. All right, on this side over here, you get a nice shot of Zack holding his hockey stick. Although it looks like, I don't know, it looks like his hands are having a hard time grabbing that thing. Like they're not sculpted the right direction. And then over on this side, you got a nice picture of Smash. And Smash looks like he means business with those 2 weapons. On the back, you got another cool shot of these guys. And I gotta say, Zack here looks almost like Doc Brown. Like he's gonna be like, where we're going, we don't need roads. And then you have Smash holding that, I don't know, is that a weapon or is that just like a grappling hook? If it's a grappling hook, I hope that thing's, pretty strong because Smash is a big dude. Over here you have this, generic Ninja Turtle information, nothing about Zack or Smash. And then down at the bottom, you got some of the other releases from the NECA Fred Wolf series. The only ones that we haven't had in hand yet is Dirk Savage and Mona Lisa, but they do look pretty awesome. All right, back to the front here, and then down to the bottom. It says director Randy Falk, Trevor Zammit, sculpt and fabrication Paul Harding. Now that's cool. You know, Paul Harding did Groundchuck, Dirtbag, Toka, and Razar. I was looking at these guys. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe he did Smash, but I can't tell if he just did Smash or he did a decent amount on Zack. You know, because Kushwara Studios also did the sculpting. So, you know, who knows who did what. Paint, Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, prototypes, Roger Fernandez, photography, Stephen Mazurik, and packaging, Travis Hastback. So that covers everything with the package. And, you know, now I'm going to open these guys up, move them around, and hopefully nothing's broken, because I'm a little... I'll be honest with you, I'm a little weary now that I opened up all three of my Crooked Ninja Turtle gang members and they had some joint problems. I'm a little worried about Zack because he's got these little tiny elbow joints. But, you know, hopefully in a couple seconds I have some good news and not utter heartbreak. So I'll talk to you in a second. So here they are, free from their prison of cardboard and plastic and ready to go out trick-or-treating as their favorite Ninja Turtle. Smash here is obviously Raph, and Zack is... I don't know. Zack's one of those poor kids that, like, they couldn't get the licensed costume at Kmart, so their grandmother had to make it for him, and their grandmother was like, they have green bandanas, right? You know, so this is kind of like looking at my life as a Ninja Turtle fan, you know? Here I was as a kid, bright-eyed, optimistic. You know, I was like, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to be a Ninja Turtle. I'll be a martial arts master and eat pizza every day. It's going to be awesome. And here's me now, 30 years later. I'm still eating pizza every day, but I gave up on the martial arts after about 3 months. I'm still wearing my Ninja Turtle shirt, much to the dismay of my wife, who, you know, wonders why she married someone who's perpetually 10 years old. So these guys look great, you know, and they have a ton of awesome, amazing accessories, you know. A lot of really deep cuts from the cartoon, which is great. I did run into some joint, you know, resistance with these guys. You know, some slight problems, but nothing as bad as my Crooked Ninja Turtle gang member arm breaking. I think, got everything to move, except for maybe one of Smash's, like, knee joints. Maybe the top or the bottom I couldn't get going on either side of his legs. The problem is that he's got ratchet joints for the knees, but the vinyl in, like, the middle section there is just way too soft. So when you try to bend the knee, the vinyl just gets, like, bunched up, and it blocks, you know, the movement. It's a pain in the neck. The problem with Zack was just trying to get him to move because, you know, you're worried that you're going to break something on him. I will give this advice, though. If you do see this in store and you want to pick it up, make sure you buy Smash with his legs, like, completely straight. Right? If they're bent in the package, it is very, very difficult to get them unbent out of the package. You know, you want them nice and straight. It is easier to begin that bend when they're like that, okay? So I better quit wasting time here because, you know, I got a lot to go over. You know, I got to go over articulation, sculpt, accuracy, and all that stuff. But first, you know, we're going to start with Smash, and we're going to go over his cartoon history. Why Smash and not Zack, even though he's on the left and you want to go left to right? You know, I'm going right to left this time. I'm going over Smash because he's only in one episode, and it's going to be really easy to cover it. Zack, on the other hand, his cartoon section is going to be quite extensive, and, you know, there's just going to be a lot to it, you know. All right, so Smash is the master of the Slash for Cash dojo, and he was voiced by Peter Cullen, one of the best voice actors around. You know, you probably know him best as the additional voices on the Snorks. Smash made his one and only appearance in the Season 2 opener, Return of the Shredder. This episode begins right where Season 1 left off, you know. The Shredder, Krang, Bebop, Rocksteady, and the Technodrome are all stuck in Dimension X. Shredder's ego took a massive blow in the last episode when the Turtles defeated him, so he begs Krang to send him back to Earth, you know, so he can have his revenge. Krang seems a little wishy-washy at first, but eventually he gives in and sends Shredder back to Earth. But when he sends him back, he doesn't send the Shredder any weapons, foot soldiers, or even Bebop and Rocksteady. Because he says that, he wants Shredder to destroy the Turtles alone. He wants the Shredder to prove himself worthy after failing so hard. And if Shredder can't do it, Krang doesn't want to be best buds no more. So the Shredder concocts a scheme, an evil scheme, where he'll train a bunch of losers to carry out crime across the city while posing as the Ninja Turtles. This will tarnish the Turtles' name and also provide a distraction so the Shredder can move in and capture Master Splinter. Where will he find these losers? Well, the Slash for Cash dojo. As soon as the Shredder enters the dojo, he sees two of its students fall over on each other very embarrassingly. Smash, the master of the Slash for Cash dojo, calls the students a bunch of useless wimps. And the Shredder calls him out on it. He says the master is responsible for the students. So, of course, Smash gets upset and he calls the Shredder a clown. And I think he calls him like Tin Face or something like that. And he says, "No one talks to me like that." Which shows that Smash has got guts. Because if I saw a dude who looked like the Shredder, I'd be like, "Whoa, buddy, call me a clown all you want. Just take those blades out of my place." So, the Shredder doesn't feel threatened by Smash at all, and he says that from now on, he is the master of the Slash for Cash dojo. And then he chops up a punching bag to prove his threat. That poor punching bag. He only had one more week until retirement. So, Smash grovels at Shredder's feet and becomes his new second in command for the time being. Now, there's a lot to this episode that I'm not going to get into because I'm going to save it for the Baxter Stockman review. But needless to say, the Shredder also releases Baxter Stockman from an institution here. They capture Splinter and, stuff like that. But I'm just going to focus on Smash. So here's the rest of Smash's story. All right, the Shredder trains Smash's students. When he's finished, Smash gives them all matching turtle uniforms and says that they're all members of the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang. And then they go commit some crimes. They rob banks, grocery stores, and more. Smash always leads them on these excursions, and, he usually provides the main muscle. Like, he karate chops a cash register, he kicks open a safe, and he even pushes open some doors. Man. One of the things I love in this episode is how he hands out Crooked Ninja Turtle gang cards with their phone number on it. Like, that's just funny. So, April calls the guys to Channel 6 to show them footage of the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang. Man, the Turtles better get a lawyer. I think somebody's infringing on their copyright. And then, when the guys return home to the sewer, they find that Splinter has been captured. They decide to follow a trail of destruction to find out who kidnapped their master, and that's when they end up in a junkyard, where Smash and the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang are waiting for them. Smash calls the guys a bunch of wimps. Man, this guy is just insulting people left and right in this episode. He's just always calling people names. And the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang attack. The Turtles make quick work of all the grunts, and then they make even quicker work of Smash. Smash is left trapped in these stocks, and, that's the last we ever see of him. He tells the guys to read that message on the wall that Shredder left for them, and they just leave him there. It would have been cool if, he returned, down the road somewhere, just popped up in another episode or something. But no, that's it. Maybe some junkyard rats ate him. I don't know. So let's talk about the toy. And first up is accuracy. Now, I could be wrong about this, but, when I think of Smash, I don't think of just some fat, dumpy guy. Like, I see of him as more of like a muscular dude with a fat layer on top, kind of like the Kingpin. The Kingpin is actually almost made out of muscle, but he looks like fat. In the cartoon, Smash, I think, at times appears this way, like when he's standing here leading the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang. But if you look at this action figure, I just kind of think he looks a little more dumpy. He lacks that, mass that he has in the show. I feel like he should be broader and just a little bigger. This guy just kind of appears tubby. I think he still kind of looks... slightly threatening if you put the Ninja Turtle next to him. He's still a little bigger than him. And yes, I guess in the cartoon they do make they get through him pretty quickly and just, tie him up or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like he should still look imposing. I actually kind of think it would have been better if they would have sort of based his size off of sort of like the size of Dirtbag here. I feel like he is built more like I imagine Smash to be proportionately. He's big and bulky. He looks more powerful than the Turtles, but he's not too big and bulky that he looks like he could easily overpower the Shredder. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this guy. I think he's still good. I still like him. I just feel like he could have been a little bigger and bulkier. I think proportionally his head is really well done. I think they did a good job of capturing his likeness. And if you do like a head turn, no matter which angle you look at it, it always looks like Smash, So that is good. Unfortunately, my yelling face here has like this smudge or this paint underneath the nostril, which, is not a good look for a guy who's trying to look tough. It almost kind of looks like he's got a nose drip. I don't know. Like, I kind of look at these and I kind of feel like almost they should have been reversed or something. Like the yelling face should have been like the full disguise face, and the closed mouth should have been on the normal looking face. These are all minor nitpicks, though. I'm still pretty happy with how this guy came out. I think most likely I'll just always display him though with the eye bandana because I don't know. Like when he wears the suit, he always has the bandana. He only doesn't wear a bandana whenever he's in his like karate gi. So in the cartoon, Smash has two different looks. As I said, he's got his gi, which he wears whenever he's at the Smash for Cash dojo, and he also wears it during the Great CNTG Junkyard Battle against the Turtles. I guess maybe he wanted to look more serious, like he wasn't running around in Ninja Turtle pajamas. Now, when Smash is actually leading his students to commit crimes, that's when he wears, his Ninja Turtle disguise. Unlike the lackeys, he only wears an eye bandana and not that green paper bag. I guess, when you lead, you don't want a bag covering your face, or else you'd sound like, "We're the Crooked Ninja Turtle Gang! Now give us all the jewelry! I said, give us the jewelry!" Smash's turtle costume consists of a turtle shell shirt, a pair of brown high waters, a few red sweatbands on his wrists and his elbows, and, what appears to be two-toed green shoes. As you can see here, NECA obviously pulled all of this off. I mean, no problem whatsoever. I mean, how could you get any of this wrong? Oh yeah, plus he's got that white belt, or gray belt. As I said with the other Crooked Ninja Turtle Gang review, the t-shirt, in my opinion, it's supposed to have like a printed shell on it, but this actually looks like padding because it kind of sticks out a little bit. Like it's almost like armor to protect him from the ass-kicking he's going to receive from the Ninja Turtles. Smash's articulation is pretty good. You should be able to get him into some pretty decent poses. I had a little trouble with the knee joints that I'll tell you about in a little bit. It kind of looks like his upper arm here is a little too short. Like this bicep definitely could have been a little longer. All right, so the head here has got a ball joint. Now, there is something at the bottom of the neck, but to be honest with you, I guess it does. There we go. So you can get him to look down. You can get him to look up. It doesn't look, it looks kind of funny, but it's all right. The shoulders here rotate this direction. Then you have a hinge there. The bicep, the elbow joint here is only it's a single joint. You can swivel, and it also has a hinge. As I said before, the upper arm looks just a little short or something. Like usually when you bend your arm, and you put your hand all the way up to your body, your hand reaches your shoulder. But this, if you completely bent that up here, it'd be like up here. It'd be way too tall. The wrist here swivels, and there also is a hinge. Now, there's some rotation here. Rotate down, rotate up. It's swivel from side to side. It's kind of hard to make out what's going on in there, though. Kind of feel like there's a ball joint, almost like kind of like how a wingnut was built. I think I don't remember. The hips here have a ball joint, which work really good. You know, you have the swivel on the hips. Now, the problem I had with the knees is kind of what I was saying earlier, and also kind of the problem with the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang. If your guy came with one of the joints bent like this in the package, to try to get that to begin, you know, to bend so that he actually has a straight leg would be difficult, because this vinyl in here seems just to be like a little soft. So whenever I would try to bend this like this, the vinyl would get bunched up and it wouldn't push in place. But luckily I kind of... Alright, I got that side good, and this side... Oh, I guess I did get both of the knees to work after a while, but in the beginning, I promise you, it was not an easy task. The ankle here has a hinge, and then you have ankle rockers. And that's it. I should mention this before I end articulation, that the vinyl overlay of the pelvis kind of gets in the way a bit. Like, it really comes down pretty far. Like, you can actually push into that and feel like where the gap is. And, you know, it's a lot of just that overlay. And unfortunately, it kind of stops the leg from coming up all the way. Back when this NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon series took off, like, I began to dream of all the guys we may get. And I even made a wish list back in 2021. And you know what? Smash and the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang were number 2. Yeah, that's right. I really wanted these guys. You know, this group of incompetent knockoffs were a must-have for me. Smash here, I think, is great, but he does have a few cons. You know, articulation-wise, his legs are a little difficult to work with because you have the t-shirt hanging down in front, plus the vinyl overlay over the pelvis kind of gets in the way. So it can be a little difficult to get those legs to bend forward, you know, as much as you might want it to, you know, in order to get him into dynamic poses. I also think his upper arms are just a little stumpy, you know, and that kind of makes the joint kind of higher than it should be, which can also be a little strange. And finally, my last complaint is I just wish he was a little bigger, you know, a little bit more massive or something like that, you know. But, you know, it's not all bad, because on the plus side, I think his face, like, the likeness is perfect. And despite being a little smaller than I think he should be, he still looks like he can cause the Ninja Turtles some damage. He definitely looks awesome leading the CNTG members, you know, against the Turtles. And he makes me want to buy at least 2 more Crooked Ninja Turtle gang members, you know. Damn you, NECA, and your army building mastery. How you've bewitched me with your awesome action figures based off of cartoons that I watched 100 times when I was a kid. So now let's talk about the first fifth turtle. That's right, before Jenica, before Venus, before April herself mutated into a Ninja Turtle, you had Zack. You know, geez, they've really been trying the fifth female turtle thing for a long time. Hey, did you know that there was going to be a fourth Ninja Turtle movie back in the day? And it was going to feature another fifth turtle named Kirby. Now, I wonder if Jack Kirby would have appreciated that. I mean, we all saw where the quality was going with the third one. The fourth one couldn't have been that much better. Also, I don't count Slash or Toka as fifth turtles because they're bad dudes. I mean, come on. So, Zack appeared in 7 episodes altogether. In seasons 3 through 7, he's 13 years old, and Mikey calls him Micro Dude. He first appeared in the season 3 episode, The Fifth Turtle. As the episode begins, Donatello is busy in his lab, studying the planets. He learns that within the next week, a weird planetary alignment will take place. A planetary conjunction. But just before he can learn any more about that, the other 3 turtles barge in and interrupt his adventures in astrology. You see, they need him to go off on a quest. Quite possibly the most important quest that has ever been requested. They need him to leave the safety of their home, you know, to travel to the surface world, to scour the dangerous streets of New York City, in the darkest of nights, to retrieve mozzarella. I mean, why not, right? I mean, nothing bad ever happens in New York at nighttime. So he agrees to run to the store, but only if Raphael goes with him. After Donatello and Raphael make their late night purchase, they cut through an alley and they get jumped by a bunch of loser punkers. Now, these fools seriously do not know the thrashing they're about to receive. But before Donatello and Raph can, lay a single blow on them, Zack shows up to save them, and he clumsily trips over his feet. Not a good first impression, but, this at least, provides a minor distraction so Don and Raph can kick some punker butt. But when Zack gets up, he accidentally clobbers both of them with his hockey stick. And then the bad guys run away. So, Zack is left there with the guys, and he introduces himself. You see, he's completely obsessed with the Ninja Turtles. He dresses to look like them. And he even has his own junior crime fighter kit so he can fight crime just like them. He even wants to join them. But the two turtles, they're not having it. Don calls him a menace, and Raph mocks his Ninja Turtle skies pretty relentlessly. Any other fanatic would run away, vowing revenge, crying that they were supposed to understand. I'll make you understand. But Zack just runs away, and steals a Ninja Turtle comm. Now, he does say that he will show them that he could be a Ninja Turtle too, so I guess he will make them understand. Down in the Technodrome, Krang also discovers the upcoming planetary conjunction, the planetary alignment. So he sends the Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady to Marconi Labs to steal some capsidium crystals. You see, Krang wants the Shredder to place these crystals on some telescope at some planetarium. Because when the planets align, it'll create some kind of weird light, right? And the light will go down into the telescope and hit the crystals. The capsidium crystals will absorb the light and create energy, and Krang can use that energy to raise the Technodrome from the center of the Earth. Back on the surface, Zack enters his home, and, we get to meet his jerky brother, Walt. Walt makes fun of Zack for dressing up like a turtle, and, he doesn't think the Ninja Turtles even exist. He's a turtle denier. Zack doesn't have much of a defense, only, no, they do exist sort of thing, Zack tries to go to bed, but he's woken up when April tries to contact the Ninja Turtles with their turtle communicators. So somehow he's able to eavesdrop on this conversation between April and the Ninja Turtles. So does that mean, when she calls them, every single Ninja Turtle communicator, is in this group chat or something like that? Anyway, April tells the guys that, there's a break-in at Marconi Labs. Of course, it's the Shredder and the Technodrome crew. And Zack decides that he's going to go help the Ninja Turtles. Now, this scene is actually pretty interesting. I actually do really like the animation in this episode. I think it's some of the best in Season 3. And there's some pretty cool shots of Rocksteady as he's trying to steal the Capsidian crystals. Now, the Ninja Turtles are about to, beat up the Technodrome crew. But before they can pound Shredder into submission, Zack shows up and, falls right into a death trap. Now, I do have to mention this, that I love how absolutely excited April is to potentially get footage of some 13-year-old kid's untimely demise, right? She is way too excited to get footage of Zack being crushed by this giant pendulum. Raph saves Zack from being crushed, and once again, the guys go off on this poor kid, Zack leaves not really crushed, I guess, because he follows them home. He just does not take no for an answer. As the guys return home, Zack is just trailing behind them on his little bike. You think that they would have had some kind of signal or radar in the turtle van alerting them that somebody has been following them all the way home. But no, I guess these guys just are not paying that much attention. Now, what boggles my mind even more is that Leo complains about something being sticky on the floor of the van. You see, Zack put some kind of special paint on the floor so he could use his ultraviolet glasses to follow their footprints to their home. They left the doors of the turtle van unlocked when they were going in to fight the Shredder. This episode just keeps on making the guys look more and more careless, which is the point, I guess. So Zack follows the turtles' footprints and surprises everybody at the lair, right? Now, you'd think that Splinter would discipline the guys and, chop Zack into bits in order to protect the location of the turtle lair. But no, he congratulates Zack for pointing out how careless the Ninja Turtles have become. Now, if I was Raph, I'd get a little defensive about this. I'd be like, look, Splinter, like, this kid may have followed us home, but he's still a moron. I mean, he trips over his feet. He whacks us every chance he gets. But oh well, the Ninja Turtles are nicer than me, and they all become chums. Zack especially is super happy, and he decides to show how happy he is by connecting the mic of his junior detective kit to Raph's turtle comm. Now, what emits can only be described as a high-pitched assault on your ears. It seems kind of weird that, Zack would think this is a cool thing to show the guys, but don't worry, this pays off in the future. And now the guys show Zack their lair, and Zack agrees that he won't, endanger himself anymore while trying to protect them. Back at Shredder's hideout, Shredder watches the footage from his latest battle with the Turtles, and he decides to kidnap Zack. What's kind of funny is he uses the bike's license plate to ask the police where Zack lives. Like, whoever had, a real license plate on their bike. Like, I had a license plate on my bike. Do you know what it read? It read, Gary. I'm willing to bet most kids named Gary had a license plate that read, Gary. So, Bebop and Rocksteady go to Zack's house to try to kidnap him. Now, unfortunately, no cool, Home Alone scene takes place here, but a cool E.T. scene takes place. The goons don't find Zack, but he overhears them mention that they're setting up the capsidium crystals at the planetarium, and despite promising Splinter that he'll stay out of trouble, Zack decides to head to the planetarium. He doesn't call them or anything like that, no. Instead of telling the guys, he knows that Donatello will deduce that this is where the Shredder needs to carry out his evil scheme. Back at the sewer lair, Donatello deduces that the planetarium is where the Shredder needs to be to carry out his evil scheme. So while waiting for the Ninja Turtles to show up, Zack gets captured by Rocksteady, of course, because that's what you do if you're a side character in the Ninja Turtle cartoon. And then when the guys finally do show up to fight the Shredder, Shredder uses Zack to make the guys surrender. Now here is the spoiler alert, all right? The planetary conjunction takes place, but before the capsidium crystals can fully power up and raise the Technodrome from the magma depths of the Earth's core, Zack plugs his mic into Raph's turtle comm, and the super annoying high-pitched noise shatters the capsidium crystals, and Krang's dreams of world domination. Now, I love how the Technodrome crashes through some underground tunnels once it loses power. I think that's pretty funny. Leo is able to pick up one of the crystal shards with his toes, and the guys use that to cut themselves free. Now, I also love how when Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady run away, the module is missing thanks to something Donatello did earlier, and the three fearsome foes have to jump down the hole, and then they just roll down this long cavern all the way down to the Technodrome. All right, so the good guys save the day, and Splinter makes Zack an honorary turtle. He says that Zack can come to their home anytime he wants. And then the episode ends with the turtles taking Zack home and shocking his jerky brother, proving him wrong. Now, this is a decent episode. I find this fine. I like this one. The animation is very good for a season 3 episode, as I said before. I think the characters all look great. I like it when the guys are tied up and Raph says, who are you going to call? Mutant Busters? Whenever Zack asks to see their turtle comm. Next up, Zack appeared in the Season 3 episode, The Great Boldini. This episode begins with Zack and his friend Caitlin down in the sewers, hanging out with the guys, assisting Michelangelo with some magic tricks. Now, unfortunately, Mikey sucks, but it's no big deal, because everybody's going to go see a real magician at some unnamed museum. All right. The magician's name? The Great Boldini. At the museum, April is already there, poking her nose where it shouldn't be, shooting a piece on the tortellini emerald. What valuable information does she learn? That it's green and extremely valuable. Wow, insightful. So, the turtles, Zach and Caitlin, show up at the museum, and the Great Boldini starts his show. Right in front of everyone, the Great Boldini plans to make the tortellini emerald disappear. But as he works his trick, the emerald is stolen. While everybody is trying to figure out what happened, Zach and Caitlin decide that Boldini is a prime suspect. So they follow him backstage into a storage room, through a grate, come into a tree, climb the stair, went through the wall and into the hall, and eventually they end up in the museum's basement. Down here, Boldini pulls the tortellini emerald out of a pipe. Like, how did he even get it in there? And that's when Don Turtelli makes his entrance. You see, Boldini and Turtelli are cousins. Bum, bum, bum. And Turtelli wants the emerald since at some point it belonged to his grandfather, Tony the Tickler Turtelli. He tries to take off with the emerald, but Caitlin and Zach steal it back. Now, Zach almost gets away with the emerald, but Caitlin gets caught, and Turtelli threatens to tickle Caitlin if Zach doesn't hand over the emerald. This is an exact quote. "Where do you want it, Blondie? Under your arm? The soles of your feet?" Wow, this dude is a creeper. So Zach is about to hand over the emerald, and then that's when the Rat King shows up. I actually really like when the Rat King shows up here. You know, I think it adds like another level, makes this episode even more exciting. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. So the Rat King says that, he's taking the emerald as a form of payment since Turtelli built a tunnel through his domain in the sewers. This actually causes a little distraction, that's long enough for Zach and Caitlin to escape. So the Rat King, Boldini, and Turtelli all team up. The Rat King sends his rats to go into the main control room to lock the doors of the museum. Zach and Caitlin hide the tortellini emerald, but Don Turtelli manages to capture both of them, and he begins to torture them by Tickle, the fiend. I like how the Rat King is like, man, Turtelli, this is way too weird, even for me. I'm gonna go look at some paintings. Zach and Caitlin eventually give up the location of the emerald, so Turtelli releases them. They run into the turtles, but at this point in the episode, the Rat King has tampered with the museum's climate control computer, and now it's snowing inside of the museum, which is also cool. I like snow. This, not only creates problems for the good guys, but also the bad guys. Turtelli and Boldini can't find the escape tunnel in the basement, and that gives the Ninja Turtles some time to find them. The good guys and the bad guys have an indoor snowball fight, which is cool, Donnie and Caitlin fix the climate control computer. Zach retrieves the tortellini emerald, and Turtelli and Boldini get caught and sent to prison. Altogether, this episode is all right. I like this one, I left out pretty much the whole Ninja Turtle plot, but I like parts of that too, especially the stereotypical Irish cop who thinks the guys are leprechauns. I like Rat King's little appearance that he makes in this episode, as I mentioned. The animation in this episode is pretty poor, though. It is not a good season 3 episode animation-wise. Most of the time, Zach and Caitlin sort of have the same exact face and head shape. The only thing that's different about them is their hair. Zach never wears his Ninja Turtle disguise in this episode, and he also doesn't use his junior detective kits. But he does wear his book bag, and after this episode, Caitlin never shows up again. Next, you have the season 3 episode, The Missing Map. This episode opens in the sewers where Donatello is telling Zach and his jerky brother Walt Ninja Turtle stories. Man, I can't believe they left Walt down here. I mean, they're just letting anybody into their home now. As Donatello is trying to tell like one of his stories, Mikey cuts him off and decides to pull out the Ninja Turtle scrapbook. This scrapbook is filled with pictures of their friends, mementos, and two of their most important possessions. The only map to the sewer lair, and evidence which proves the Shredder's conspiracy against Hamato Yoshi. The evidence could reinstate Splinter back into the foot and give Shredder the boot. Shortly after this, story time ends and the visit is over, but unknown to everybody else, Walt decides to steal the Turtles' documents pouch so he can keep their map as a souvenir. He reveals the stolen goods to Zack on the way home, and, Zack wants to snitch on him. But Walt, being the typical older brother, is like, you tell Mom and Dad I'm going to pound your face in. No, he doesn't say that, But what does happen is Bebop and Rocksteady overhear their fighting, and they report their findings to the Shredder, and Shredder commands Bebop and Rocksteady to chase after Zack and Walt. Walt actually manages to hide the pouch in a place where the Shredder can't find it. Zack, on the other hand, is caught and taken down to the Technodrome, and Krang puts him in his thought extractor. Now, for some unknown reason, it doesn't work, and Bebop and Rocksteady get electrocuted, so Zack runs away, and he finds the main control panels of the Technodrome. Here, he's able to cause all kinds of chaos. He pushes a few buttons, and Bebop and Rocksteady get washed. He launches a few eyeball missiles. He does a lot of damage, While Zack is having fun down in the Technodrome, Walt runs to the sewers and finds the Turtles. The Shredder returns to the Technodrome, which Zack has almost plunged into a lava lake. And so the Shredder manages to, put things back on the right track. Zack is able to escape, though, He steals a Techno Rover and heads for the surface. Now, seriously, the mutant modules, to me, make sense, traveling through the Earth, just drilling and flying up, straight up, But for this Techno Rover to make it back to the surface from all the way down to where the Technodrome is supposed to be, I don't believe that for a second. Are you trying to tell me that there's a straight pathway for him to drive that thing all the way up to the top? Do you know how much gas that would take? How many hours? All right, so the Shredder releases a surveillance drone to keep an eye on Zack, and it's a very, very cool looking drone, I gotta say. That is pretty neat. NECA, get on this thing. Make that. Zack finds the guys, and everybody discusses the whereabouts of the document pouch. But, thanks to Shredder's drone, the Shredder hears everything. He tries to get the pouch before the Turtles, but, he fails, of course. And that leaves him only one option, steal a giant military chopper. In the climax of this episode, Walt actually does show an unusual amount of heroism. He sprays the villains with some foam. Shredder loses control of the chopper, but, gains the turtle map, which turns out to be a decoy. In the end, the Turtles congratulate Walt for his act of heroism, and he's giving the title of the Sixth Turtle. Now, I call that BS. I mean, come on. He barely did anything. This episode is okay. It's kind of eh. I like the scenes in the Technodrome a lot, I like the shots with the Techno Rover. That's all cool. But, I can't get into this one as much because I don't think that Walt is that cool of a character. He's just kind of annoying kid. That surveillance drone was pretty awesome, though. I like the weird turtle comm they gave April. The outside of it looks like a simplified version of her usual turtle comm, and on the inside, they flipped the design, so the screen is on the bottom. What a weird animation mistake. Up next, another Season 3 episode. In this one, Zack only shows up for a little bit. The episode is called Shredderville, and the premise is that Donatello dreams the Turtles never existed, and New York City has been turned into Shredderville. Shredderville is a dilapidated version of New York, where mutants are hunted, TV news reporters work as harem girls, the Technodrome sits inside Central Park, completely demolished, and Shredder rules over everything, all right? Zack in this world isn't the fifth turtle because he wasn't inspired by the four guys. He's just some punk kid who spray paints Krang Go Home on the side of the Technodrome. All right, a rock soldier tries to grab him, but Donatello saves the day. He throws his bow right between the rock soldier's legs and makes him trip. Zack is uneasy, about talking to mutants, but he decides to help the turtles get into the Technodrome by giving them, I guess, disguises, right? He says he's going to help them, and then they have disguises. So I guess he gave them some clothes to wear. They don't really come out and say it, but it's implied, all right? So the turtles enter the Technodrome, and they talk to Krang and learn about, this whole Shredderville deal with Shredder ruling over it all, and all right. And then they try to leave, but Krang is not having it. He sends some rock soldiers to capture them. He thinks they're actually like repairmen, and he wants them to repair his view screen so he can watch his favorite soap opera as the thing. All right, but the Ninja Turtles escape the Technodrome with the rock soldiers chasing after them. To help them escape, Zack hides atop the door of the Technodrome and spray paints the rock soldiers pink. Now, I assume since the rock soldiers are the manliest of men, the color pink makes them collapse and die of embarrassment. These guys were actually painted pink before Zack started spraying them. That's obviously an animation error. In my opinion, this is, a fun episode. I like this one. I like how Bebop and Rocksteady are humans in this one. I like It's a Wonderful Life parodies. And I also like, episodes where characters like go to the future and like the future's all run down and stuff like that. Like the DuckTales episode, Duck to the Future. All right, so now we're finally out of season 3, and now we're on to season 4. And the episode is called Bebop and Rocksteady Conquer the Universe. On a playground, Zack is being pushed around by some jerk kids with jerk faces, all right? He tries to scare them off by telling them that, if the turtles were here, they wouldn't pick on him, which just makes me smile a little bit, just think how funny it would be if the turtles saw these kids pushing Zack around and they came over and just ninja beat the crap out of these bullies. I mean, technically, they are teenagers, so they're probably only a few years older than them, if not just a year older than them. I mean, Zack is almost 14, he says. So they could beat up these kids, no problem. They wouldn't get arrested for that. All right, so Zack, walks away from his bullies, wishing that he could call the turtles, but he doesn't, since they told him only to call them with emergencies. At that moment, Zack witnesses Bebop and Rocksteady as they arrive on Earth. All right, good timing, right? Bebop and Rocksteady have been sent to New York by the Shredder to go to Unbridled Technologies, so they can steal the Anxietron ray. The Anxietron ray makes people feel anxious, all right? Zack tries to call the guys, but Donatello is currently working on the TurtleCom communications, so it's down at the moment. So he decides to follow the two brain-celled mutant monsters, all right? Bebop and Rocksteady manage to steal the Anxietron ray, and after they shoot a few people with it, they decide that, what? Screw it. We're going to take over the world ourselves. Forget Krang and the Shredder. While Bebop and Rocksteady are doing this, Zack is trailing them, He watches them as they make their way through the city and gain control of City Hall. Finally, after Bebop and Rocksteady have caused a lot of panic, Zack is able to get a hold of the Ninja Turtles. And he tells them to go to City Hall to stop Bebop and Rocksteady. But as the Ninja Turtles get there, Bebop and Rocksteady shoot them. So the Ninja Turtles, become a bunch of wimps, and they run away all the way back to home, so that they can hide. Check this out. It's the end credit scene. That's pretty cool. So, unfortunately, you look at when you're watching the end credits, you see that scene of them going down the elevator shaft, and you're like, man, that's cool. They're doing something super active and cool, right? And then you find out that they're running away in terror, and you're like, oh, that changes how I feel about that shot completely now at the end of the episode. All right, so the guys return home and they hide under their bed. Splinter tries to use his ninjutsu mind control to snap them out of it, but nothing will break the spell, all right? Splinter believes that the only thing that can reverse the effects of the Anxietron ray is the device itself. So he goes with Zack to retrieve it, right? The two team up, Splinter and Zack. Back up on the surface, Bebop and Rocksteady see the giant Gorgonzola monster and foolishly believe that the giant reptilian beast is trying to take over their city, right? In reality, he's just a movie prop, because they're a bunch of doofuses. So the two goofballs head over to Gorgonzola, hoping to blast it with the ray, hoping to make him scared so that they can control him. When they get there, they actually blow up April's news van, and, that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, they learn that Gorgonzola is a robot, so they take over his controls, and, now they have the incredible monster do what everybody's been trying to do since the beginning of the show, right? Shut April O'Neil up for good. Fortunately, for villains everywhere, they don't succeed. I mean, who would the Shredder be able to kidnap if he didn't have April? Irma? Not bloody likely. So, inside the belly of the beast, April calls the guys and tells them to come rescue her. But they're like, April, that's the scariest thing we've ever heard. You're in the belly of a giant robot monster. Like, we'll call up Zach and Splinter and send them instead. So Zach and Splinter head towards April, all while avoiding pedestrians. I do kind of think this one scene is a little funny whenever Zach tells Splinter to hide under a sign, because Splinter's like, wow, how resourceful. You'll make a great Ninja Turtle. Like, all he did was tell you to hide underneath the sign. Like how resourceful is that? I mean, what kind of ninja master is Splinter anyway? Like, he's running down a main road in the middle of day, in daylight, he should be sneaking through the alleys, trying to be incognito. He should have a disguise on, really. So Splinter and Zack run into Bebop and Rocksteady. Splinter tries to steal the ray off of Rocksteady, but he gets captured. He gets captured, and he gets tied to a train track. I mean, how stereotypical can you get? Which leaves Zack all alone. As Bebop and Rocksteady send a train heading for Splinter, Zack is able to steal the Anxietron ray. Finally, he's able to blast the turtles back to normal, just in time for them to give Bebop and Rocksteady a good ass kicking. I do like the climax of this episode, where the turtles have to save April from the belly of the beast and Splinter from the runaway train. In the end, Donatello saves Splinter, and Zack enters a hole in one of Gorgonzola's feet with one of Leo's swords, so he can rescue April from falling, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Why is she just hanging there? Why didn't she just let go and drop to the bottom of the feet and just kind of stand there and wait for the Ninja Turtles to get her? I mean, she falls anyways. They both fall out of Gorgonzola. Why'd she hang there all this time? So anyways, April's like, I thought one of the turtles was going to save me. And Zack replies, I am a turtle. This episode is actually a good one. I like this one. To me, this is the perfect sequel to the fifth turtle. Like, I think this really shows how heroic and Zack can be, Like, he saves the day, right? And he even gets to save April, right? He finally proves himself worthy, in my opinion, of being the fifth turtle. All right, so 2 more to go. Next up, you have the season 5 episode, Zack and the Alien Invaders. And I've actually reviewed this episode before during my Wingnut and Screwless review because, this episode was their first and only appearance in the show. In this episode, Zack reads the latest issue of Alien Invaders, and it makes him lose his mind. Everywhere he looks, he sees alien invaders. But it always turns out to be some blue-collared workers, just trying to make a buck. Poor dudes. It wouldn't be a big deal, but he does get the police involved and April, and he just becomes a major nuisance. At one point at the mall, Zack thinks he spots some alien robots, so he shoves a piano at them, which causes them to explode. But no, the robots weren't aliens. They were department store display robots, which is also kind of weird, I gotta say. Walt makes another appearance in this episode. Pretty much all he does is just kind of scold Zack for some dumb mistakes he makes. After the scene in the mall, the turtles are discussing Zack's string of false accusations. And that's when, again, Zack calls them to say that slime monsters are invading New York. You know, his footage does seem legit, but when the turtles arrive, they find out the slime monsters are only city tunnel workers. This is the last straw, all right? You know, like the turtles tell Zach that this is one false alarm too many, you know? So for the time being, he can't be a turtle. Ouch, you know? If that wasn't bad enough, his parents send him to Tenhup Military Academy. Man, that's pretty harsh, all right? Now, here he finds the faculty, Colonel Clout and Sergeant Rambo, to be a little strange, you know? And some of the kids are even stranger. Like, the kids act like a bunch of mind-controlled zombies. Later that night, Zach looks for a midnight snack, but instead he finds Colonel Clout and Sergeant Rambo clamping a kid named Eric to a mind control device called the Mind Changer. They reveal that they're actually Wingnut and Screwloose. They're from the planet Flaganon, and they're here to conquer Earth. Why not? You know, Zach decides to don his fifth turtle mask and spy on the aliens. He watches them in the gym playing with their disintegrator bazookas and giant roach bots. One of the roach bots actually steals his mask and leaves the school. So finally, Zach decides to call for help, you know. He calls the cops, but they don't believe him. And then he calls the Ninja Turtles. Leo answers the phone, and Zach says, "Na na 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 na. There really are alien invaders in the city. See, I told you so. I'm the best, so stick it." But Leo's, you know, he's a little hesitant to believe him. And that's when Zach gets cut off. You know, he gets kidnapped by Screwloose. So finally, Leo is starting to change his mind about the whole thing. You know, he sends Donnie and Mikey to the school, but it's not until April sends footage of a giant roach bot holding Zach's mask that Leo, you know, now he decides to investigate the school himself. Wingnut puts Zach in the mind changer chair, but before he can change Zach's mind, Mikey and Don show up and shut off the military academy's power, all right? Then they get captured, of course. Now, Donnie, Zach, and Mikey are all in the mind changer chair. The device begins to drain Mikey's mind, so Zach reaches down with his mouth and grabs his honorary turtle badge, and then he throws it at the machine's central electrode, which causes it to overload. Now, I can believe an alien invasion, all right, and giant roach bots, but I cannot believe this could be possible. I mean, how did he reach down? Does he even have a pocket on his shirt? How did he pull that badge out with his teeth and then get the right angle to throw that thing at the electrode with his just with his neck? Like, that's amazing. How did he do that? So now that the mind changer has been destroyed, all of the students, you know, wake up from their brainwashing, and Zach leads them in a fight against the roach bots. I mean, all they do is like spray them with a fire hose, but you know, it's cool. Then Wingnut and Screwloose run away like wimps, despite having an arsenal of disintegrator bazookas. And Zach goes back home and is considered a hero once again. You know, as I said in my Wingnut and Screwloose video, this is a neat episode. I like this one. You should probably check it out. Although it is a little weird seeing Wingnut and Screwloose as villains, you know, because usually they are good guys. And now, the final appearance of Zach in the cartoon, the Season 7 episode, Night of the Rogues. Now, I've talked about this episode a lot, all right, because it features a ton of characters who have already been released by NECA. So I will just give you the basic premise, you know, and then after that, I'll just focus on the important Zach plot points. All right, so in this episode, the Turtles cause the Shredder to be tarred by Bebop and Rocksteady, which is just super embarrassing. I mean, on the bright side, at least he wasn't feathered, but, you know, come on. Tar's got to be pretty bad, too. It's also got to be pretty hot, right? This is enough for the Shredder to finally snap and declare that he will try harder than ever to destroy the guys. So he locks Bebop and Rocksteady somewhere in the Technodrome, so they can't get in his way, and he puts together the deadliest team of rogues the world has ever seen, right? The Rat King / Leatherhead, Tempestra, Scumbug, don't forget it, Anthrax, and Chrome Dome, all right? So, how will the Turtles fight all these guys and win? They don't, all right? They get their shells kicked, and then they get left with a disintegrator to blow up and die on top of a bug zapper pest control building. So where does Zack fit into this episode? Well, after the Turtles were placed in an easily escapable situation, including a overly elaborate and exotic death, Splinter's sixth sense alert him that the Turtles are in trouble. And he meets with April and Irma, and they all decide to call in some friends, Just two of them, though. Casey Jones and Zack, the fifth Turtle. Now, this seems like they should have called in a few more favors, like maybe called Muckman. Maybe had the Punk Frogs come up for a visit. Mondo Gecko is in the city. We all know that, they could have used all those guys. Plus, Playmates would have been happy with Fred Wolf, selling more action figures by including them all in this episode. So anyways, the good guys stalk the bad guys, because they're trying to figure out what happened to the Ninja Turtles. And they decide to attack Chrome Dome once he separates himself from the other rogues. Chrome Dome needs to recharge his power, so he breaks into some kind of plant and charges his battery. Casey attacks him, but he is easily dealt with. Next up, Zack and Splinter attack him together. Man, Zack's got guts. Too bad he's got no strength, because Chrome Dome throws him, away like a used napkin. The only way that Chrome Dome can be defeated is Splinter tricks Chrome Dome into getting crushed Terminator style with this compressor thing, and Zack hooks up a computer to Chrome Dome's head, all right, and hacks into his memory. It's a good thing that they brought Zack, because these old people, they never would have been able to think of that. They'd be all like, "How are you able to type letters with this devil box?" And yeah, I know April, Irma, and Casey are probably middle-aged, but I have to ask my kids to help me sometimes on my phone too, I'll admit it. All right, so Zack learns that the guys are on top of the Bug Zapper building with only 6 minutes, 21 seconds left until Turtle termination. The heroes manage to reach the top of the Bug Zapper building before it explodes, but Casey can't break through the door, And here is where Zack once again proves his usefulness. He's just the right size to climb through an air vent to rescue the Turtles. Man, good going, Micro Dude. And that is pretty much it for Zack, I'll admit, over the past 7 episodes, Zack actually proved himself to be a valuable asset, And, I don't think he's just some silly kid wannabe. He is definitely nowhere near as annoying as the Junior Ghostbusters. I still don't think he is as cool as all the mutants that show up, but, I do feel like I have more respect for him, I think maybe from now on, when I think of Zack, I'll think of him a little more fondly. All right. So now let's talk about the toy. And first I'm going to talk about articulation, which is unusual because usually right after I talk about, all the cartoon appearances, I talk about cartoon accuracy, but I figured, I talk about his movement without his costume, and then later I'll discuss his articulation after I add the book bag and the trash lid shell. All right, so this guy has a ball joint at the base of the head and another ball joint at the base of the neck. So you can look up that high. Oh my gosh, I killed him. You can look down this far. He's got some rocking back and forth, and I don't know. His the way that his head is kind of set up, it kind of hinders it a little bit, but I think that's just the design. There's not much you could have done. You don't want to have a huge gap here or something like that. The neck doesn't move, it moves a little bit, but that too is also stopped by the turtleneck. The shoulders here, they have a rotation, and they also have a hinge. Now you have double jointed elbows, and these at first these were a little difficult to move, because you don't want to break these tiny little pegs inside of there. They rotate on the top, and there is some rotation on the bottom. This one is actually kind of stuck a little bit. I've said this before. I'm not the hugest fan of double elbows, And this, like, you know, kind of proves it to me, because like you bend his arm like that and it just looks so weird. And you know, lots of times I can get it where I'm happy with just bending it at the one elbow, or like the one joint. I think that looks pretty good. You know, if you try to bend it like at this one, it'd be way too his upper arm would be way too long. But it just looks like such like a noodle kind of arm thing. I don't know. Don't care for that as much. That's why I don't mind if they would have had single elbows on Zack here, you know. The wrist here is it swivels, and there's also a hinge. Now you got to be very careful with these too, because the pegs are so small. I mean, look at that. The upper torso articulation, if you got nothing, this feels like a solid piece of plastic. So you have some rotation at the waist. You can turn it a little bit, but it kind of stops because of the pelvis. You can't really look up or down. Like, you can feel like that there is something going on there, but it just doesn't do that much. The hips here, you know, they have the ball joint just like all the other hips for these guys, and plus they have a swivel at the top of the hip here. He's got double jointed knees. Now this one too, it looks as though I cannot get this bottom knee joint to start moving. Yeah, I can get the top one to move just fine. I'm perfectly happy with his knee joint if it's like this. I think that looks okay. You know, obviously it's going to stop some poses, you know, but it's fine. You know, it doesn't work for me if I think the top joint is okay if that can move, but the bottom one doesn't work as well. All right, so this leg, I can actually get the whole thing to move, so that's good. This double joint actually doesn't look that weird. It's not too strange looking when you have it fully bent. And down at the feet, you have a hinge, and you have ankle rockers. Now, unfortunately, you know, this peg used to be painted white, but because it started to move, it became red, you know, so it doesn't look as convincing or flush as it should, you know, like it should look as though there are shoelaces from the top all the way down to here, but it does not look like that. All right, now we can talk about accuracy. In the cartoon, Zack usually has two different looks. He has his civilian clothes, and he also has his Ninja Turtle disguise. Now, luckily, his civvies and his disguise are almost the exact same thing, so, you know, NECA was able to provide you with everything you need to capture both looks. In either his everyday clothes or his disguise, he wears a long-sleeve yellow shirt with a turtleneck. The sleeves are, you know, they look like they're a little too short, and they reach the middle of his forearms. As you can see here, NECA hit that. Tough to mess up. Next, you have his cargo pants. They actually come in a few different colors. In his first appearance, they appear white. In The Great Boldini, The Missing Map, and Shredderville, they're a somewhat more spearmint type of color, or a somewhat whitish green. Bebop and Rocksteady Conquer the Universe is where his pants finally become the darker olive green color, and this continues all the way into Night of the Rogues. As you can see here, NECA went with the darker color, most likely to match Night of the Rogues. You know, I feel like that is an episode they like to reference a lot, so he's probably mostly based off of that. Zack's shoes are red high tops with white laces and a white stripe going right down the middle. You know, NECA did what they could to match this, but as I said, they didn't paint that, or they should have just had that peg in there completely white. Because, I mean, it wore as soon as I started to move it. And you know what's weird is the back of the pegs, they still appear white. And they almost look like they were painted red. So what is going on there with this? When Zack isn't wearing his mask, you know, he just looks like a normal, everyday, average kid with a giant haircut. I'm actually having trouble with my head because, for whatever reason, when I try to push this head down on this peg, it just will not go down. So I'm going to have to warm this up to try to get it on there. But I mean, most of the times I'm going to display Zack with just the mask. Speaking of the mask, and the mask head I can actually get on pretty easily. You hear that? That was pretty quick. Zach wears a red sweatband on top of a green cloth eye bandana. I just think that they did a really good job of modeling Zach. I think proportionally his face looks good, and I don't know, just the shape of his face matches what you would expect from the cartoon. Even if you look at like the back of the head, in a 3/4 view, it matches the cartoon very well. So in the cartoon, Zack only wears the mask in The Fifth Turtle, The Missing Map, Bebop and Rocksteady Conquer the Universe, and Zack and the Alien Invaders. Now that is 4 out of 7. And in all honesty, I could not believe, because I feel like I remember him wearing it, that he doesn't wear it in a Night of the Rogues. Like, that's crazy. That's like when he's fighting like all those bad guys. Like, is he embarrassed to wear the mask now? Like, now that some time has passed since his first appearance. Oh boy, now that I'm 14 or 15, I can't wear my kid outfit anymore. What if girl sees me? She'll think I'm a turtle weenie. So let's talk about the blue backpack. Zack pretty much always wears this blue backpack in the cartoon, even in his normal everyday life. He probably always carries his junior detective kit, as well as some comics, maybe a pet frog or something, something the cool kids do. If you look at the toy here, you can see that they matched the flap, perfectly. No problems there. And the pockets appear on both sides, just like they do in the cartoon. What I think is actually pretty nice is this nice attention to detail to the straps here, all right? Because you sort of have this like T design where the straps become smaller straps. You can see that in the cartoon. It's a little different, but it's very, very similar. You have that like vertical rectangle in the middle there, like a connecting piece, and then it also has like silver buckles. Now, if you look at the toy here, they did not paint these buckles silver, which could be a complaint, but to be honest with you, I don't really care. It looks fine for me. Now, you want to know something really weird? In the cartoon, the straps of his book bag almost kind of look like suspenders. Because they always go like into his pants, and you can clearly see them pass through the belt and go into his pants. They pretty much always appear like that. In Night of the Rogues, sometimes he has a belt with no shell because the belt is supposed to be attached to the shell. So you just have the straps going into them like he does when he is wearing the shell, all right? So only on like side views do you actually see the straps connecting from the top of the bag to the bottom of the bag. There's a few other episodes too where you do see the bag straps connecting to the top and the bottom. But most of the times when he's wearing the shell, they, appear like suspenders. Like, this is really weird here. Like, there's nothing connected to the bottom of the backpack. It's very, very strange. I think this is just like an animation cheat, maybe they thought it would be too difficult to animate all these straps. I don't know. There had been a reason why they would do this, because it just doesn't make any sense. And then you have like in Zack and the Alien Invaders, and the straps don't even go past the belt. They stop right at the belt. Are they buttoned to the belt? Like, what's going on? All right, so let's see how easy it is to add the book bag to Zack here. I'm going to say you should probably go in this way. Ah, easy peasy. You see that? Super cool. All right, that's good. That was easy. No problems there. We'll see how things move along once we add the this trash can lid turtle shell. Now, Zack usually wears this when he, wears his mask, when he's got his full turtle gear on. The back of the shell has 4 segments and a handle. The toy here looks great. It's got the handle and everything. Maybe he could use it as a shield if he wasn't wearing it. But you can't take off the belt, unfortunately. Now, this, in my opinion, I wish that this this shell here, like, there was an actual buckle or something, like, it buttoned together, because I feel like this could be a serious problem. Like, this could rip or I could just kind of pull off the back or something like that. But we'll see how easy it is to get him to wear this thing, because whenever he wears this, he always has the book bag underneath, right? You got to have both of them together. So hopefully this won't be difficult. So if I were to guess, I would say that it's probably easiest to go in from the feet all the way up. So far, so good. I'm not really meeting too much resistance. Okay, we're going, we're going, we're going, we're going. Oh, it feels a little tight, actually. Trying to be extra careful here. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's actually a little peg on the back of the shell here to sit on top of the book bag. So that's good. That actually fit in there pretty good, I guess. His belt is usually around the, I don't know, around his belly button, I guess. So I think that this is perfectly fine. I don't know. It usually, because it's a drawing in the cartoon, you know, like, this could look a little more flush, or like things could be like right on top of each other and closer than they appear here. But obviously you have physical objects here, so I don't know. I still think it's good. I think this has actually worked out perfectly, so that's good. I was honestly really worried about putting that shell on there. I thought that the strap would break. All right, so let's talk about his articulation now that he's got his full gear on. The head is still the same. The arms, you know, the same. He has no upper torso articulation, so really this doesn't affect anything. And I showed you before, when you twist his pelvis, he was already meeting some resistance from, you know, the different vinyl pieces. So this actually doesn't really hinder any movement at all. He's actually pretty good to go. I think all in all, NECA did a fantastic job with their Zack action figure. Everything from his sculpt to his display possibilities to his articulation and accessories is, you know, pretty near perfect. I will say that I did run into some articulation problems whenever I was trying to make these action shots. Basically, the biggest problem I was having was the hip joints. It's all because of that vinyl overlay on the pelvis. It just comes down way too far. So when you try to bend the hip upward, you know, it starts to bunch up and get in the way. So I could only get like the legs to bend forward, I don't know, like maybe like 45 degrees. You know, you want like a nice like 90-degree angle there, but I just couldn't get it. So trying to get him into like nice like squatted poses was very difficult. I do like that this action figure inspired me to go back and check out the cartoon episodes, because it made me appreciate his character a little more than I used to. One of my favorite things is, you know, him running around with a hockey stick, because as a kid, like, I used to run around with my hockey stick pretending that it was like, you're pretending that it's like some kind of bladed weapon or something, while your friends are using wiffle ball bats as swords. Man, that used to be so much fun back in the day. So, now, accessories. I already talked about his blue backpack and his shell during accuracy, so first up on Zack's side is the hockey stick. Very cool. Zack uses this in The Fifth Turtle and Bebop and Rocksteady Conquer the Universe. He never whacks any villains, unfortunately, but he does clobber Don and Raph. Can he hold this hockey stick? Well, let's see. Yes, he can. He actually holds this pretty well. The hands have a little bit of a tight grip, but, you know, he still is able to hold it and look like he's going to whack somebody with it. Yeah, it's a very tight grip, because as soon as you start to move it, the fingers start to come off, but you could make it look like he's coming down on somebody. Next, you have Zack's ultraviolet glasses. Zack uses these to see a special type of paint. He gets that paint on the bottoms of the turtle's feet, and he's able to use the glasses to follow the prints back home to their lair. Now, he probably could have just followed these giant prints left in the mud, you know. The turtles only have 2 toes, you know, it's an easy print to follow. I think these glasses came out great. You know, I like the white glare on the front, and even this little bit right here. You know, that matches the cartoon perfectly. Now, putting this on his head will be difficult. You have a nice stretchy band, but he's got a lot of hair. Now, I was going about this the wrong way. I mean, the easiest way to go about this is by pulling off his head and going up from the bottom. Now, it actually is difficult to pull the head off when you have the shell and the book bag on his back because, you know, you got to apply some pressure and then those start to move around. All right, so if you go up from the bottom, it is very easy, and now look how cool he looks. Hey, man. Up next, you have Zach's communicator. Now, this is actually a big deal item for Zach. I mean, because, you know, first he stole Raph's, but later on when the guys give him his own communicator, it's like he's been officially welcomed into their group. We've seen communicators in this toy line before, but these are different because they both have a little hole on the bottom. That way you can, you know, attach the mic from his junior detective kit and pretend he's, you know, causing an auditory disturbance. This purple wire right here, this represents the mic cord. There's actually a hole in the bottom of his book bag that you can attach this to. Now, in the cartoon, the mic actually came out of one of his pockets. But let's be honest, you don't want to have a hole in one of those pockets. It looks better if it's on the bottom of the toy because that way it is hidden. All right, so I got it there, and the mic plugs into the communicator pretty easily, like so. I mean, just went right in there. Now the question is, can he hold this item because this looks a lot thicker than his hockey stick? Why, yes, he can. He's holding that pretty well. Although I think that, you know, eventually his hand would stretch out. What you might want to try to do is maybe use the right hand because he came with two different gripping hands and they are exactly the same. I thought maybe one was bigger than the other, but they almost look the exact same. So maybe if you, you know, use one hand for the communicator, that way it gets stretched out, and use the other hand for the hockey stick, it all works out. Next, you have a capsidium crystal. You know, Krang can either use this to harness the energy of the planetary conjunction to raise the technodrome from the depths of the Earth, or, you know, maybe this could be a broken shard that the turtles use to cut themselves free. It's up to you. Can Zach hold this? Why, yes, he can. I don't know. It's a nice looking crystal. In that cartoon, they glow so vibrantly. You can't replicate that in toy form, but this is good enough. Next, the Tortellini Emerald. You know, I like this toy a lot. I think it looks very nice. All the edges are painted nice and crisp, although it looks a little wonky. It's not completely straight. But I think this is a nice item to have because you can, you know, pretend that this is an item any villain would want to steal on your shelf and then have the turtles go and try to get it back. This comes from the episode The Great Buldini, where it was nearly stolen by Don Tortelli. I think they did a decent job of matching the color from the cartoon to the toy. You know, I think that looks pretty close. And can Zach hold this thing with his little tiny hands? No, not really. His grip is just too small. It keeps on falling out. And now you have one of the coolest accessories included here. An extra chrome dome head and a jumper cable. This is really awesome. I was actually originally planning on switching out my chrome dome head and using this one as my you know, go-to. But I kind of feel like I'm not going to do that just because the hinge on top is too noticeable. It's very big. But what I do think is really neat is the circuitry and, you know, whatever is supposed to be inside of there matches the cartoon so well. I mean, you look at it in the cartoon and you come back here and you're like, wow, like they did a really good job of copying all that. So if you're a fan of the episode Night of the Rogues, like NECA is doing such a nice job of trying to give you everything from the episode. And it's really cool because, Chrome Dome came with the computer in that movie. And you can attach the jumper cable to Chrome Dome's head here. And then, I don't know. It doesn't like click in place anywhere. You just kind of have to, try to push it in the right spot to get some pressure. The question is, where do you put it on the back of the computer? Because there is nothing for it to grab onto. So you just stick it somewhere and pretend that it's attached to something. I don't know. You kind of have to mess around with it a little bit, but you can kind of get it to do something. My only problem with the jumper cables is that there's a little tiny connecting piece in there. And I feel like that is going to break. Mine haven't yet, but they might eventually. So here you can see the brand new Chrome Dome head next to the original one. It actually appears a little skinnier than the original one, and the eyes are lifeless. They don't have that light inside of them. Yeah, it actually is. It does look smaller, and I haven't been able to pop off my original Chrome Dome head and put this on there. I feel like the original Chrome Dome, even though he's such a big figure, certain points of him, the plastic feels a little brittle or something. I don't know why, it just kind of does. But all right, so we covered everything on Zach's side, accessory-wise, and all that's left is hands. Zach has 7 different hands. They are a set of fists, a set of whoa kind of hands, like these reaching hands, and also a set of gripping hands, plus an extra right gripping hand. It's the exact same as the other right gripping hand, so you have a double right gripping hand, all right? But here's the thing, I lost one of them just now. I don't know where the heck it went. These hands are small and they're hard to keep track of. But as I showed you, Zach is able to hold all of his items except for the tortellini emerald. So, are there any items that NECA could have included here? Yes, a few. Now, this isn't me complaining, I'm perfectly happy with all the items they decided to include in this 2-pack. But here's a few items they could have included for Zach, all right? Or maybe they could have, maybe down the line, if they put out an accessories pack, they could include these. First, you have Zach's Junior Detective Kit. He makes a pretty big deal about this in the 5th Turtle. And it holds all of his detective gear. It's an easy design. They could easily make this. It's just like a solid piece of plastic. Next, a can of pink spray paint from Shredderville. That would be cool. And you could also use it, like you could let some of your punker gang action figures, maybe some of Bebop and Rocksteady's gang use it too if you want to display it differently. And last, I think you could have had Zach's badge from Zach and the Alien Invaders. This is a little bit of a different design than the communicator. So kind of got a little bit of a weird shape. And after that, really that's it. They could possibly release his bike. Maybe they could release like a cheapskate and the bike in like a 2-pack, like this smaller vehicle set. I don't know. But now let's take a look at Smash. Smash's side of the 2-pack includes an awesome group of accessories. These to me are great because they're all sort of like generic weapons, that I think could work well with either heroes or villains. You get a dagger, you get some kind of jaggedy dagger, like a lightning bolt dagger. You get a sickle, a hatchet, and a grappling hook. So, where do these all come from? These don't show up in the Slash for Cash dojo. The Crooked Ninja Turtle gang don't use these weapons at all, unless maybe you could say maybe the dagger might look similar to one of their swords, but I disagree. I don't think it's that, because really, all these appear in the Ninja Turtle sewer lair. All these weapons are part of the Turtles' arsenal, that they don't use. I know of 2 episodes where you can see all of these items pretty clearly. Both are from season 3. The first episode is Sky Turtles. You can get a really good look at the grappling hook here. It even has the yellowish rope or cord. Here you can see the toy, the grappling hook. It's very nice. It's got like the 2 points on this side and the 1 point on the other side. The string is about, I don't know, 10 inches, 8 inches, somewhere around there. I'm too lazy to measure. This one doesn't really have a handle, so you kind of have to like tie it around his one hand. Like you need to provide the counterweight to the actual grappling hook itself. But he can hold it, and you can pretend that he's swinging it. Maybe he's gonna hog tie the Ninja Turtles. So also in the episode Sky Turtles, you see one of those jagged daggers floating in the air, and as you can see, like the sides of the hilt point down towards the handle. You also see this in like Enter the Rat King. You see that like dagger or sword appears left to the shurikens and throwing blades, as well as the grappling hook. Now in the cartoon, you know, this blade was a lot longer. He had a lot more jaggedy edges. Here you just have one, which is fine. You know, I kind of like this dagger. I could see this as being like sort of like a, like maybe even a weapon like Splinter could hide in his cloak or something like that. Also in Enter the Rat King, and you can also see them in Sky Turtles, but the design isn't as close to the toys as they appear in Enter the Rat King. But you can see the hatchet, and you can also see the sickle next to it. Now, the sickle is very different from the toy, but the hatchet looks just like it. I mean, here you can see the toys, and like I said, that hatchet looks just like the hatchet in the cartoon, but this sickle is, you know, simple. It's just got the blade in the front. The other one has sort of like the tail end in the back. Smash here can hold both of these. No problems with that whatsoever. And then last, when it comes to the dagger, you know, there's lots of swords and blades and daggers hanging on the wall. You know, there is nothing very unique about this toy dagger. So I just kind of think that it could be, you know, a representation of any of those. Or maybe like in this one shot here from Enter the Rat King, you can see a bunch of like swords on that sword stand. And of course, Smash here can hold this dagger with ease. Oh, with ease. Are there any items that could have been included with Smash, but they may have left out for whatever reason? Well, you know, he does carry around money bags when they're robbing banks, but you have money bags that came with the Punk Frogs and also Mondo Gecko, so he can probably use those. The biggest one that is really missing here, and you know, something I thought would have been really cool to have, is you know, just a little Crooked Ninja Turtle Gang calling card. You know, that would have been awesome. So here's Zack and Smash next to a bunch of other guys from NECA's Fred Wolf series. You know, at this point, it's pretty much impossible to get a very nice group shot of all these guys to show the scale across the board. There's just way too many action figures, and there's a ton of guys, you know, obviously not included here. Now, I tried to include every character that Zack had interacted with, but I think I forgot Casey Jones. Damn it. Oh well. So you can get a good idea of how these guys fit in with the rest of the line. You know, this toy line really has turned into a vast assortment of shapes and sizes. I think that's great because for some reason, I always kind of just think of like present day toys as like having to reuse molds like all the time. I think it's because I was brainwashed by Masters of the Universe Classics, DC Universe Classics, and Marvel Legends and all that kind of stuff. It just got drilled into my head. So to see a very big toy line with lots of unique action figures, it really makes me happy as a toy collector. Now, one thing I noticed when I did make this lineup shot here is that Smash's body is just a reuse of Byrne's body. You can see like the same shape of the forearms, the same length of the upper torso, the upper arms. You know, the legs are pretty close to being the exact same thing. It's like he's got the same knee joints and everything like that. It's just some things have been altered. But basically, he was built off of Byrne, which, you know, as I said before, that's part of the problem. I think he's too small. He shouldn't have been built off of Burn. He should have been built off of like Dirtbag hair. Here's Zack and Smash next to some of Super 7's Ninja Turtle Ultimate action figures. Scale-wise and design-wise, they do not match the humans in this line. I think maybe Zack matches, like, if you, like, repainted Zack to make him look more like a Super 7 Ultimates action figure, I could see him possibly working with these toys. But Smash, I just don't see him working at all. That's it. Man, this one felt like it just took forever to make for some reason. I don't know. I kept on working on it. I just felt like I could never make any progress on it or something, but just slowly, very slowly, I was able to wrap it up, and now I'm finally finished. I am super happy because there are so many more Ninja Turtle toys that I need to take a look at. So if you watched this all the way to the end, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what I plan on talking about next. Maybe some Super 7 Ultimates, but I don't know. I got to think about it. So have a good one, and talk to you later.